Welcome to the podcast, The Next Big Thing. I'm your host, Keith D. Terry, a consultant, a coach, and a serial entrepreneur. The mission here is to teach, inspire, and to motivate. We're here to unveil the captivating stories of triumph, resilience, and the secret recipes of success shared by some pretty remarkable entrepreneurs and individuals. You know, the kind of stories that ignite a fire within you, pushing you to reach for the stars and helping you discover the path to financial freedom. But hey, we don't want this adventure to be a solo one. Join our community, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and if you like what you hear today, spread the love by sharing this with your friends. After all, greatness is meant to be shared. So fasten your seatbelts, dear listeners, because the next big thing is about to take on a thrilling ride through the world of success, and we're just getting started. In today's episode, we're talking about the journey taken to create one of Milwaukee's finest soul food restaurants with Mr. Bennie Smith, who created Daddy's Soul Food Grille. I think you guys are going to enjoy this conversation. But before I introduce you to Mr. Smith, let me give you a little history about soul food. The history of starting a soul food restaurant in the Midwest is a tale of resilience, cultural heritage, and culinary excellence. Soul food, deeply rooted in the African-American tradition, has found its place in the Midwest, reflecting the migration of African-Americans from the South to urban centers in the Midwest in search of better opportunities and a desire to preserve their culinary heritage. There are 5 historical points that I want to make as we set this conversation up with Mr. Bennie Smith. First one is the great migration and the cultural exchange. In the early mid-20th century, we witnessed the great migration. A significant number of African Americans moved from the rural South to cities like Chicago, Detroit, St. Louis, Milwaukee. As African Americans settled in urban centers, they brought with them the flavors and recipes and culinary traditions of their Southern roots. The second point I want to make is that community and home cooking. Soul food restaurants often began as small family-owned establishments rooted in tight-knit family communities and cooking. These restaurants aimed to recreate comforting home-cooked meals that were a staple of the African-American household for generations, coming up with dishes such as fried chicken, collard greens, cornbread, macaroni and cheese, peach cobbler. We all know that. Yes. The third point I want to make is cultural preservation and celebration. Soul food restaurants, and Daddy's Soul Food Restaurants is not a stranger to this. Soul food restaurants in the Midwest play a vital role in preserving and celebrating African American culture. The fourth point I want to make is over time, soul food restaurants in the Midwest started expanding their menus, offering different culinary dishes with the same traditional flares. And Bennie can get into more of that. And then the fifth point I wanted to make is that we're seeing a modernization of soul food, what we call a resurgence of it. In recent years, there have been a resurgence and an interest in soul food. I would argue it never went away, leading to a modern soul food renaissance. Young entrepreneurs and chefs have opened up new soul food restaurants, infusing creativity, innovation in these traditional dishes. Now, what I will say for people out there is that this is a legacy. There are 5 top restaurants that I just want to give you a historical perspective of. We have Sylvia's Soul Food Restaurant, St. Louis, Luella's Soul Southern Kitchen. We have Nana's, and we have Peaches, just to name a few. But what Bennie has been, and his wife Angela have been able to do, is something that I just want you guys to understand. Based on research that I uncovered out of Cornell University, 30% of restaurants fail or change ownership within their first year. Number 2, within 3 years, that rate goes up to 60%. And by the end of the 5th year, the failure rate is anywhere between 70 and 90%. So you can see that there's already an uphill battle starting a business, and particularly starting a restaurant. And so that I'm done talking about my points. And so let me introduce to you the founder and CEO of Daddy's Soul Food. And let me just say this about him. In the realm of culinary genius, there are those exceptional individuals who possess a remarkable ability to weave flavors and craft culinary experiences that touch the soul. One such luminary is Mr. Bennie Smith, who we're talking to today. In 2014, Bennie Smith, along with his beautiful wife, Angela, opened up Daddy's Soul Food. So I'm going to stop talking and say, Bennie, how you doing?
I'm doing wonderful, Keith. How you doing, my friend?
I'm good. So first, I want to thank you for coming on the show. And so right now we have folks that have joined us. Tell the audience a little bit about who you are. That's as we set this up. Tell folks who you are.
Well, actually, first of all and foremost, I must say I am a preacher. So if I get the hooping on the mic a little bit, that's because you can't stop a preacher. You give a preacher a mic, you're gonna mess up.
All right.
Foremost, I am a husband. I'm a family man. I love my children. I'm also a community activist. I love my community. A lot of times, we just go home, but I know my neighbors.
Okay.
I talk with my neighbors. My neighbors know me. They watch my house when I'm gone. So I'm an overall individual who loves people.
Okay. So I thank you for that. So what inspired you? There are some folks that are listening that are not in Milwaukee. Tell us about a restaurant.
Well, the restaurant, we got our origin from, my background is catering.
Okay.
If we go even further, my father was a culinary chef. And as a little boy, I would watch him. He would take me to the country clubs with him as a little boy. And I would love to go because, number one, I could eat free. And he had some of his sous chefs that were there. So I was meeting my buddy there. And thirdly, they had a bowling alley. So I can eat free at my friends and bowling alley. Oh, I was living the life.
You were living the life.
And so, but what brought my attention was I watched my father in the kitchen. I watched him how he commanded as an African-American male, predominantly white area. He worked in Libertyville, Antioch, all those different places, but he was the only Black African-American man. And I noticed that, and he wasn't ashamed about it. He was proud about it. And he commanded his kitchen. All his sous chefs were Caucasian. And when he demanded, he was a very short man, 5'7". And he demanded his kitchen. And if anything stuck with me was the fact how he demanded what he wanted and he produced it. When it's time to produce that 500 plate meal, it was assembly line that was so fascinating to me. I was looking at how are they putting these 500 meals out like this? I was looking like, oh my God, it was so fascinating. And he had everything orchestrated so brilliantly. And after he finished, he took me into his office, kicked his feet up, said, son, what do you think? I said, Dad, I didn't know what to say, but the food was good. But that was fascinating to me. And to make a complete circle, I did a whole lot of things in life, bank manager. I opened up a ribbon cutting with a bank, and I did a complete circle and found myself back in culinary field.
Okay.
So Daddy's originated from my father. It originated from when, I don't want to get ahead of myself because Daddy's represent my father in some degree. Because I noticed when I grew up, I had a father in my life. Yes. And Daddy's represent fatherhood, represents that male piece that's in the family home. My mom and my dad, I watched my mom and my dad and my 4 sisters. We all had that gel when mom and dad was together. When mom and dad was in the home, we had that completeness. When that erupted or that was interrupted, I can explain that down in this segment, how it changed the way I was. So we brought all that back because I want to illustrate or reiterate how important it is for a father to be in a family or be a part of a family life.
Oh, I totally agree. As a father myself, I totally agree. So let's stay on the early childhood for a second. So your dad took you in the restaurant. You saw it. Were you one of those kids that was paying attention but wasn't really paying attention? Or
I was paying attention pretty much, Keith, but I wasn't paying attention because, like I said, I was just glad to play ball, and eat free food and be with my friends. But in the background, I didn't know that that was my calling, because even though I wasn't paying attention, yet I was psychologically where I was, because I was watching. I was watching how the golfers was coming in. It was a golf course. I watched how golfers was coming in, and how the conversation was going abroad with my dad and with the golfers and with the staff. All this was going on. I didn't understand it at that time, but I watched all the politics go on, and I was still watching what my father would do in that situation, and he handled it. That's what got my attention.
Okay. And was there a special draw to Milwaukee to start this? Because I want to get into the catering business. That was the first step to create a catering business, correct?
Exactly. When I came to city of Milwaukee, I still had the love of cooking in my life. And I still did other things. So I worked at various restaurants in the city of Milwaukee. It's like I was always Joseph. I always found favor wherever I went. Different jobs I found, they would always make me the manager. They would always give me the key to the building. I never understood it. I never knew why I was always being
like blessed. Joseph.
I was always a Joseph wherever I went. It wasn't just one job. It was like everywhere I went. Didn't understand why I was like that. When I was getting ready to leave this job to go to culinary college, I told my boss, I said, listen, I'm thinking about quitting my job to go to college to pursue my culinary degree. She said, well, I don't want to lose you, so how about you doing third shift? I'm going to give you the key to the building. You just come in and do third shift.
Wow.
I'm trying to get rid of the job, and she's trying to give me the key.
Right.
So make a long story short, Keith, I went to MATC to get my culinary degree, and it was a phenomenal course. I learned much more than what I did about cooking. I learned the whys. A lot of times people, my mom will cook raw chicken, and then she would use that same towel, that same salmonella towel, the wipe off. I hope my mom is listening to this. I ain't seen my mom do this anyway, but she would use that same chicken towel to wipe the counter off and then cut vegetables, not knowing we was cross-contaminating ourselves, getting sick. But we didn't get sick back in the day. We didn't get the Castro. But I learned I know about autism. I learned about salmonella. I learned about E. coli, all these different things, the whys of cooking, that propelled me to get a more curious idea about what food was about.
So then you went to school to perfect how to cook the food. When did you turn into this businessman and have the vision for Daddy's Soul Food? Let's segue there a little bit.
When I had all that under my belt, I had the culinary under my belt, I had the different experience under my belt. I want to talk about my dad. I want to talk about, because this is what makes what Daddy's is about, because I was doing a particular job, and my father was pronounced with cancer.
Okay.
And when he was pronounced with lymphoma, and it was the 4th stage. We didn't know what stage it was till they did the biopsy test. And when they pronounced that he had cancer, at that time we both was in a room when the doctor told us, and sometimes doctors can be very brutal. They come in. I think that's the way they spoke. That they think that's the way they say, "I'm sorry, Mr. Smith, you have lymphoma, 4th stage. If you take the chemo, you have 6 months. If you don't take chemo, it can be any day." And he left the room. And so I've never ever seen my father cry. I've never seen my dad cry. But when the doctor left that room, I looked at him, and tears was running down his face. I said, "Dad, let's take the chemo to give us this 6 months," because I wanted my dad to come out remission.
Yeah, I bet you.
But my dad lost the battle with cancer.
Yeah.
I don't hope I get teared up, because this makes who I am. This makes what Daddy's is. Okay. And also a backstory that I'll talk about in a minute. But when we laid in the hospital, so we went through the chemo. But I didn't know because, as your parents there, they are secretive. They keep a lot of stuff close to the chest.
Yeah.
I didn't know that he had a pacemaker in his chest, which only allowed him to get the other type of chemo. It wasn't the full doses of chemo.
Wow.
So he was able to get the other type of chemo. And we did 3 treatments. At that time, he lost his battle with chemo, with cancer. And he passed away on Easter. And at that time, Keith, my life actually was in disarray because the time that I found out was in January 2014 that my dad had cancer till Easter. I put everything on hold. Okay. Went to the hospital. I was by his side. I was right there with him. Now, this was my father. This was the one who I embellished. I looked upon him as my hero. Mm-hmm. And when he lost his fight with cancer, I was in a place where I was in the process of being foreclosed on. I was in the process of losing my home. Actually, I only had a couple months to be in my home. And at that time, I had to regroup. And so I went out and got another job. I went out and got a job where I worked from 5 a.m. till 9 p.m. Okay. I would see my kids sleep, and I would come home and they would still be asleep. 6 days a week, except Sunday when I went to church.
Wow.
I did that, and I didn't understand the path I was on. I still wanted my dream to go through. I still wanted my business to go through. And then all of a sudden, I started seeing a little money in the bank account. I got a phone call from this gentleman who, right now, my business resides in his building. He called me up and said, "Bennie, can you come by my office?"
Wow.
And talk. And I had history with him because I used to be a home. I used to have my home improvement business. So I did business with him. So we had history. Okay. So we sat in the office and we talked, small talk, said, "Listen, take a walk with me." And so we walked to the building where I am now. We walked inside the building and he stopped midway. He said, looked at me. He said, "Bennie, how would you like to start your restaurant?" And I looked at him, and all this, I'm thinking, I get about $1,000 in the bank. I get, what am my wife gonna say? I don't know if I can do it. I want to do my business, but I don't want to start right now. Let's put it on hold. All these thoughts going in my mind. But then the other side said, "Let's do it right now. You can do it. Come on, that's what you've been waiting for." So you battling with all this. And so I still had the poker face. I said, well, what I have to do? The building was a complete hall. When I say a hall, it used to be a former subway. Okay. The only thing it had was...
You mean the building where you are right now?
It didn't have no counters. It had
wow. Okay.
It didn't have anything. Okay. But the back of the kitchen didn't have no section, didn't even have a hood. And so he told me, he said, "Well, if you're going to be cooking and fryers and the hoods and the ovens, we need to put a hood in. So it's going to be about $35,000. So I said, well, let me go back to my satellite dish. That's what I was doing. So I'm going to go back to my satellite. And he said, "No, Bennie, this is what I'm going to do. If you are willing to do this, I'm going to put $25,000 on this. Anything over the $25,000, you put into the rent." Okay. I said, okay, so he's piquing my interest. And so when we set the numbers up,
you really are a blessed man. Wow.
This is how the steps of a good man are ordered. Now, I say when I had the vision was down in my belly. Gotcha. I dreamed it. I wanted it. I can taste it. Even though I was putting satellite, "Ma'am, this is where you want your TV at." But on the background keys, I was running my business. I was going to houses where they would sick their dogs on me because I was African American. I would get out of my van. Here come this Rottweiler. I said, "Sir, I called you 10 minutes ago, told you I was coming. Why are you going to send your Rottweiler on me?" I went to places where there wasn't no cell phone, and I watched Criminal Minds. I said, "Lord, am I going to be cut up?" But I did it for the family. You know what I'm saying? I was working in midwinter weather. My wedding ring caught me off the ladder. I was falling off the ladder. My wedding ring caught me from falling that last step off the ladder. And it got an indent, I don't know if you can see it, that caught me. I was about to fall. I said, "Baby, do I got to still keep doing this?" I said, "But I'm going to keep on doing this." But God saw that I was determined. And that's one of the things you have to be. You got to be determined. I don't care no matter what. I didn't want nobody pat me on the back. Keep want nobody saying, go ahead.
So let's go stepwise. Tell us about the business today. Okay, go ahead.
I'm gonna say I have two different things that describe me. I got two books that I'm writing now. You know, I can't write that good. Sometimes my words might be slurred because I don't have that proper English, you know. So
that's okay. Come on.
So my first book is called From Cans to Cases.
From cans to cases.
From cans to cases. And the second book is called I Be God Bam.
Your mama might hear that. I be okay.
I Be God Bam. That's the introduction of who I am. But first, briefly, From Cans to Cases talks about the small beginnings. Don't despise small beginnings. When we took John Hennessy upon the offer, it was daunting. We was threading different uncharted territory. It wasn't familiar. It wasn't used to going to or getting direct deposit on Friday for your check. That's familiar. That's comfortable. You know, you work certain hours, you get your check. This here is where you have to generate your own wealth. So we were charting uncharted territory.
So what was the biggest challenge? Was it getting over your own internal fears, or was there other challenges when starting the business? For those young entrepreneurs that are listening. Absolutely. I think that the challenge for me per se, it wasn't that I had a fear of failing. Now hear me when I say I didn't have a fear of failing, because I didn't believe I was going to fail. Because if things line up such as that was a sign itself. So you never ever doubted that you would be successful.
I didn't.
Amen to that.
I didn't. Let me be clear. I didn't think that I would fail. I never knew that I would be as successful as I would be, or
Got you.
as successful as I am. I knew that what I was presenting was going to be the best that I had, and it was going to be successful.
Okay.
Now, what kind of clothing it would take upon after that? It was surprising to me, and I'll talk about that too.
Okay.
But when we started, Keith, as a young entrepreneur, you have to be invested in your own self. You cannot depend on even your own wife. I told my wife, I said, honey, I got this opportunity. John told me we're going to do this. And Keith, I told her this. I said, babe, I asked her, I said, babe, can I do it? Because we both worked at the same company. Keith, I was getting $15 to $75 an hour. We was comfortable paying the bills. We was normal people.
Gotcha.
We're normal people. But I had a dream. I was greater. When you know you are supposed to be something and somebody else doing something else, you can't rest. There's something in you has to burst out. And I said, babe, can I do it? Can I quit and do it? She said, yeah, babe, go. Keith, we started that business. When I say cans to cases, we started the business the very first day. We put it out on Facebook. We told everybody we're going to be opening up. And then the city of Milwaukee held us up. And then they said, I thought you guys were going to open up. And I was like, it wasn't my fault. So I called the city. I said, what is holding up? I said, well, you got to go to building permit. I said, we did that. And I finally got adamant about it. I called one person, well, call their supervisor. I called their supervisor. And she said, well, he's 5 seats away from me. Everybody sits in City Hall 5 cubicles away. And this man had our paperwork sitting on his desk like he was just holding us up.
Oh, wow.
I told my wife, she said, well, I'm going to tell him to take it back to City Hall. I didn't know I wasn't trying to make no waves, but I was trying to be adamant about it. Look here, I'm trying to open my business. I said, babe, we're going to set this food up. We're going to open up. We open usually at 11 o'clock. I said, I'm going down to City Hall. Keith, I had $750 in my checking account. I thought I had enough when I went down to City Hall. When the City Hall told me you need to pay $1,295 to get your license. I didn't have $1,200. So right then I made a prayer to God. I said, Lord, if you let this rubber check go through, I will put it back in when I make this. You know what I said? When I make this money my first day. And when I got down, they said, I'm here to open up my business. That is Soul Food Grille. So we'll go down to the clerk. the clerk is the money. So I thought it was going to be a check key. It wasn't no check. It was an electronic check. I said, they finna check and know that I ain't got no money in the account. But I already told God, I said, Lord, I'm going to get the money back. I'm trying to be right about it. They holding me up. I want to open my business. My wife waiting on my phone call to open up the business. I had my employees waiting on the phone call. And so I wrote the $1,298 check. They did it electronically. They gave me a receipt. I said, they gave me a receipt. Okay, it must don't go right away.
Okay.
Took it back to the other office. Gave them the receipt. I waited about 5 minutes. They gave me my license. I went outside the city hall, outside on the street, and said, baby, open the doors. Been open ever since.
Wow. And how successful was your first day, just out of historical context?
The first day, Keith, we made $1,200.
Wow.
We made $1,200 because I have a lot of followers. Because I used to be a caterer, and people, your first business, you soup it up. You soup it up. You got all your friends coming. They want to see how you got it going, not see how you're doing, but how you got it going and see. But some people I never seen back no more. First time they want to come back. So I want to talk about how you build it.
So let me ask this before you get into that. So. 2 questions. Did your restaurant look like it does now the first day you opened it?
It actually with a small improvement, but overall I kept it original. The same wallpaper, same painting, same tiles.
Well, it's absolutely beautiful. It's a beautiful place.
We just keep it up. Absolutely. Because I want to keep that as the original Daddy's that we originally opened up.
Okay.
How you have that place, that nostalgic place.
So folks, if you haven't, so those folks that want to visit Daddy's Soul Food Grille, you should check it out. It is absolutely a beautiful place. My second question is the menu. So since you are a trained culinary visionary here, a chef, how have you built your you don't have to give me any trade secrets here, but I would assume with a mother that can cook as well as she can and a dad that was a chef, how is your menu based on tradition and some of your own visionary choices?
Well, when we opened up the restaurant, I had my mom and dad in mind.
Gotcha.
We love to come home because we smelled what Mama was cooking, and we know we were gonna be happy or sad based on what Mama cooked. Once we hit the sidewalk, we knew what we were gonna be happy or sad based on what Mama cooked. And this is the idea I got. We sat at the table.
Gotcha.
We talked. My sisters and brother, we had eye contact with each other. Mama you cooked at one time. You didn't come back and cook nothing else. You didn't cook no dinner or no snack. I ain't eating that. You gonna eat that or you gonna bust. Okay. You talking about you ain't eating that. This is what Mama cooked. This is what you gonna eat, or you wait till tomorrow dinner time.
Right.
The ideal of Daddy's I've encountered was the family.
Gotcha.
We're missing that. We're missing that collective of familyhood, of coming together at the dinner table and having dialogue, talking about what we went through that day. Mom and Daddy talking about Mom and Daddy giving goo-goo eye, my sisters and them fighting against each other, and I'm inserting my reference to their fight. All this brought us closer together. And because we don't have that nowadays, because when kids eat what they want to eat at a certain time, they eat, or they don't eat what mama, we have that dysfunction. We don't have that collectiveness no more.
Gotcha. I got you.
This is what I wanted. That's what I wanted to bring as Daddies.
So
not only that,
go ahead.
But fatherhood.
Gotcha. And so I hear the passion in your voice. And so you just shared something before we started, but I'll let you tell the listening audience. You have expanded from one location to others, and I'll let you talk about that. But talk a little bit about, are the locations a different concept or just extensions of the original restaurant?
Well, the original restaurant that we have now is predominantly in an area where I wouldn't say in the hood, but it's in an area where it's a development being in progress.
Gotcha.
We're doing right now. We just had a groundbreaking now where we'll be doing a trolley at the corner of our restaurant. They had the mayors and the aldermen all talking about what they're doing. There's a lot of revitalization going on in the area where we were.
So this is a, go ahead.
Yeah, but when we started 2014, we had prostitution, we had drug activity, we had a lot of gangs, we had a lot of car thefts. It was an era that was personified as a bad area.
It's not that now.
No, and when I went there, a lot of my friends told me that you shouldn't go on Twitter. Wales was a taboo.
Gotcha.
Wales was a place that you just didn't go. But when I saw the demographics, I see something different. I saw the traffic. I saw the demographic. I saw how many cars went to this area all day, all the time.
And did you pick the location?
Well, when the owner...
that's right. He owned the building.
When he presented the area, he showed me two things, the demographic and the restaurant.
Gotcha.
Restaurant was nice, but when he showed me the demographics, that got my interest. And I said, I'll do it because I knew location is the key. Location is very vital to your business.
And so how many different restaurants do you have now?
Right now, we have our original Daddy's Soul Food and Grill. We opened up Daddy's on Blue Mound in Wauwatosa, a different city. And now we did the groundbreaking for Delaney's.
Oh, so you're doing a third restaurant. Okay.
We have a third restaurant in the works right now. We'll be having a grand opening next year, April. This restaurant here is derived on economic development with the youth. We're trying to capture our youth. We did a pilot with our youth in that area, and we had them because it's music orientated. The amphitheater that we're going to be hosting seats about 5,000 people. Has three different offices. Each office is nonprofit. This is key. And it's nonprofit. So say you are musically inclined and you want to learn about your music, but you just don't know what to do. We have people who are talented who will bring you in. If you're talented, we'll show you how to create your music, show you how to produce your music, show you how to write your music, show you how to keep your music, and develop you all free. We had three different state-of-art offices that will train kids and musically inclined people in that area. We will have bands that's up and coming to showcase in that area. Now, the second stage right now is the cafe. We're in the process of doing a cafe now, which is called Delaney's. And in this cafe, we will be behind the scenes, but yet we will be promoting youth. We'll be doing a comp.
Will it be called Daddy's?
It will be called Delaney's.
Delaney's.
Delaney's because it'd be called Delaney's because the reason why I use Delaney's, it used to be an old Irish building, and my wife's last name, Delaney, is an Irish name.
Gotcha.
And in her family, there's predominantly musician. Her father was a musician. My son is a musician. My daughter's a musician. So this whole concept, this whole building is all about music. And it's going to be, we have an outdoor park with a live band. And then we have a live jazz music inside the restaurant. The windows open up so you can see inside and out. So you can be dining in, and then you can come in with the windows open. So it's a phenomenal.
Okay. So let's in the time that we have remaining, let's talk a little bit about the future. I have a question. Why do you think it's so difficult for restaurants to survive?
Well, the reason why I think so, Keith, is because two things. Well, I would say generally, not so much two things, but first of all, I don't think they go in for the right reason. When you open up exactly, if you think about it, you don't go in for the right reason, because if you open up a restaurant because you say, oh, well, I can cook, I can do better, I can cook like that, and so you jump the gun and you go in not knowing, not doing your homework, not even realizing what it takes to open up a business, you're automatically going to fail. You don't go and open up a business without doing any type of homework.
I totally agree with that.
because I've worked in many restaurants. I saw the ups and downs, the risks and failures, but I was behind the scene. I was managerial. I wasn't the final man on the totem pole, but I saw pretty much predominantly of what that owner went through. And so when you go in, you must have a vision. What is your vision? What is your vision from the beginning to end? You have a product. You got to remember, you got to sell to a particular clientele. Is it a demand for your product? And what is the risk? What is the worst case scenario? If I fail, what is the worst case scenario? I'll lose what, $3,000 to $4,000. That's the worst case scenario. But if you go in a restaurant thinking that you can do like the next person because of you feel that you're better than them, or since you think them less eager, well, since they can do it, I know I can do it. It doesn't work like that. You don't know what that person does.
So did the pandemic help or hurt your business?
It actually, I'm so surprised it actually helped it.
Okay.
I'm explain that. You would think, how would a pandemic help your business? At the time of the pandemic, Keith, we were in the process of our expansion of our original restaurant at Daddy's.
Okay.
At that time, we was also opening up Daddy's on Blue Mountain. Gotcha. So we were in the process of doing both things at the same time. When the pandemic hit, we got the word from the city said there are no more inspectors coming in. We had just put the framework in, and the inspectors had to come late, look at all the conduit, the Roman that we ran, and the electrical before we could put the drywall up. They said no. They put everything on hold. Then they told us that we only can have 25% come into the establishment. At that moment, Keith, I honestly can tell you that I was really worried because at that time, you have to have customers come into the doors. People were concerned about their health. They weren't concerned about eating. They weren't concerned about going out to a restaurant. They definitely weren't concerned about going out to no restaurant.
Right.
They definitely weren't concerned about going to a social environment.
Gotcha.
But what fascinated me was when we continued, even though the ramifications they put up on us that we can only put in, we minimized our pay, we minimized our schedule. Mm-hmm. Me and my wife, my kids, and a few of my head employees, with everybody on unemployment. We actually put everybody on.
Did your menu stay the same, or did you have to cut back?
The menu stayed exactly the same, because that's what I want to say. You have to stay consistent. I wasn't going to shortcut anybody because our concept was the same. If we're going to be there for 10 people, we were cooking the same thing for 500.
Gotcha.
So the menu was not going to change.
Gotcha.
We stayed right there, and look what happened. This is why I say the pandemic helped us, because I did go on a sabbatical for 3 months. When my daughter came home from Boston, she said the school shut down, and she was, I said, hold on, you sick? So I don't know, Dad. I said, oh, no. We closed them for 3 weeks. And Keith, we put on the three-week sabbatical, and we just stayed at home, loved on the one another. They cook-offs on Facebook. And so I regrouped. Then he said, do dine-in. So we changed our dynamic. That's one of the things you have to be able to adapt. You can't go in with the same business mind and think it's going to work. You got to learn how to adapt.
Gotcha.
It takes work.
Well,
so what I had to do,
I got so many questions. So from
let me say this though.
Okay.
What I had to do right quick, I never did online delivery. I never did curbside delivery. You gonna come into my restaurant? I never did prepare your dinner and then zip it up, staple up, and take it out to you. No, sir. Walk on up in here, get some exercise. But when COVID made me adapt, I didn't even have my record. I said, hey, Mr. Johnson, how you doing? Mr. Johnson out there, he walks in the restaurant all the time. I said, wait a minute, I see something. Oh my God, I was missing all this money. All of us to keep the curbside begin a phenomenon. We had lines wrapped around to get Daddy's food. They was calling phone. I said, oh my God, what's going on? I can call you back. Pam, you got to come back to work. We start bringing our employees back.
Wow.
And then when they said 25%, Keith, this is what really had tears to my eyes. They allowed 25% people to come into the restaurant. We took all the tables and chairs out. It was just an empty lobby. And we had an employee set to be at the door. His job was to be at the door to let people in, let people out. I said, okay, why? Because that means when people coming, Keith, it was raining outside and people were still standing in line. I said, I don't understand this. What's going?
The food is good.
It was. I don't think it was the food because it was a phenomenon happening. It was a phenomenon. You're talking about the next innovation, the next to create wealth. It was a phenomenon because of three things we did not change. We didn't change the scenario, we didn't change the customer service, or we didn't change the quality of the food.
Wow.
The customers wanted that brand. And they stood in that rain to get that brand. I said, oh my God. Then they opened up the 50%. Man, I had a fit then. Y'all come on out. And they was, well, if they come into my restaurant in the rain, I'm gonna do promotion. You're gonna get something free. I'm gonna give back to you. I'm not gonna let you just come give to me. I'm giving back to you because I want my customers to have a buy-in to my restaurant. And that went a long way with them.
Okay, I love that. And so let's talk a little bit about, before we run out of time, let's talk a little bit about the recipe.
Now, Keith, if I tell you my recipe, I might have to kill you.
No, I don't mean the recipe. I don't mean the recipe, the menu. How have you changed or adapt your menu? Has it changed over time? Because I remember in an earlier conversation, you make this special soup or something like that. How do you play in the kitchen? Because, when you bring something on the menu, you got to cook for thousands of people.
Absolutely. We've cooked for many, Travis Scott, we cooked for Cedric the Entertainer, we just cooked for Lisa Ray just was in our restaurant a little while with the AKA. I told my wife, I said, baby, Lisa Ray gonna be here a little while. I got word Lisa Ray. I said, baby, do I get a pass? No, you don't get no pass. Lisa Ray coming. But Lisa Ray came in and kissed me on my cheek. Hello, somebody. I said, baby, she kissed me. I didn't kiss her back. She kissed me on my, anyway, how does that play into the restaurant? Because our menu, it works with, we do a Benjamin, which talks about my son. That's the buffet. We talk about my son, Andrew. That's the meat, because Andrew loves the meat. Bria, she's very intricate. She goes to college. She speaks 2 different languages. She speaks Spanish backwards. So we do the intricate menu based with Bria's menu. And then Ashley is the songbird. And then Amber is the desserts, we name everything categorized after all my children. And Jay Java is my coffee house. So my 6 kids are part of my menu. When I incorporated my soups, I watched and see what my customers would buy. Okay. You spoke about soul food. You spoke about what our heritage was and what soul food does. When I grew up down south, we didn't just eat to live. We lived to eat. We just put food on the stove. We relish. We rubbed them collard greens. We rubbed them snap beans because we knew what it took to get those snap beans. It took us getting on our knees and making sure that roll was clean and making sure that water was running. So when we was able to, we enjoyed the fruit of the snap beans, we enjoyed what we cooked. And that's what Daddy's is about. It's not just coming to get a meal, it's coming to get an experience.
Well, I'm always fascinated about when you go into a restaurant and their prices are set. Some might consider them high, some might consider them low. I'm curious because, I'm a businessman and I know how I price my services. How do you go about, and this is for me, total selfish question on my part. How do you go about, pricing out what you put on your menu? Should it be $25.95, $37.95, $9.99?
Exactly.
So how do you approach that?
That's a very good question, Keith. And, I have a gift that I can go in any restaurant. I can tell you what you're doing wrong. If you don't believe me, call me and I can tell you. Okay. I was just talking with the chain when we met with the different restaurants. We were talking. I was telling him, this is what you're doing wrong. Do X, Y, Z, you'll be successful. Simple. Just tell me what it is and I can tell you. When you price in your menu, you cannot be greedy. You have to be conservative. When I priced my menu, I was conservative because, and it relates to this. My mother had a leak under the kitchen sink. It said, "Bam, make sure that pot under that sink." And I said, Mama, and I said in my mind, it ain't nothing but a drop. So Keith, I didn't put a pot under there. The next day, water was flowing all in the kitchen floor.
Oh, Lord.
All over the place. And,
Okay.
and Keith, to me, it was just a drop. So even though Mama said put a pot in there, I didn't put it there. The next day, I was scared to death because I know what was coming.
Right.
What are you saying, Benny? Drip, drop. You can't go in expecting to get that big money. You have to drip drop. You have to be patient with your business.
I see what you're saying. Okay, I appreciate
when you
it.
go in and set your price. A customer or consumer wants a deal for their money.
Gotcha.
You're offering a brand. You're offering customer service. You're offering excellent ambiance, and you're offering excellent food. That's a brand in itself that's worth $25.95. But you don't charge them that. You are well worth that, but you charge them a conservative price. You don't want that customer just one time out the month. You want that customer 3 times a week.
Gotcha.
You want it affordable because, Keith, when you put that customer under that pot and don't put the pot there, you're going to have them running all on the kitchen floor. That small drip drop is going to run. You can't, and I see people they say, well, oxtails is worth this price. I'm going to sell it for this price. No, you have to have a margin that you're working with because you're trying to keep retention.
Gotcha.
And that's a nugget I try to tell people. I got you, Keith. You spent $50, $60. You ain't coming no more.
Okay. You got a point.
But if you gonna spend $24 for the same food, I'm gonna see you again. Keith, not only am I gonna see you again, I'm gonna see you about 4 times. So you spend $100 versus that $50, and you're gonna keep on. It's gonna be continual. You have to be comparative.
So my last question is, what's your view of the future of restaurants and the culinary arts?
I think that the restaurants will propel to the technology age. We have a lot of apps. We have a lot of restaurants that's propelling. With a lot of restaurants that's giving customers. A lot of restaurants are failing. I hear news every day. Restaurants are failing. I say, oh, that will close. The reason why is because I think that we don't keep consistency. We don't forever stay in customer space. We don't ever be relevant. You have to continue to be relevant. My father will always say, I'm going to keep, this is how we did it back in the old days. But that's how we did it back in the old days. That's how, that was then. This is now.
Gotcha.
You have to stay current and relevant. Otherwise, you will lose the audience.
Well, you obviously are doing something right because you're growing. You're at your 3rd location, and I'm assuming that you probably, I don't know if you've considered franchising or not, but I just want to thank you for coming on the show. This is the incomparable Mr. Bennie Smith, the founder and CEO of Daddy's Soul Food Grille in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Go look them up on the internet. Go visit them. Thanks for listening to The Next Big Thing. I'm your host, Keith D. Terry. If you've enjoyed this episode and you'd like to support this podcast, please share it with others. Post about it on social media or leave a rating and a review. To catch all the latest from me, you can follow me on my YouTube channel at Keith D. Terry. If you want to recommend a guest, please email me at info@terryperformancegroup.com. This has been produced by your host and Jade Productions.